Light a deep hello everyone, dear friends. To Diep lost her memory, the secretary's lie and a mother's choice. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It was as if the skies themselves mourned what had been lost. James sat by to Diep's hospital bed, her hand cold in his, her face pale and still. Machines beeped steadily, but there was no recognition in her eyes. Not when he spoke her name, not when he whispered their memories. Not even when he placed the wildflower scarf she once loved on her chest. To Diep had lost her memory. They found her unconscious near a ravine after escaping from John's hideout. Her body bore bruises, but it was her mind that bore the deepest wound. The doctors said it was trauma-induced amnesia. She may recover slowly, they said. James didn't care how long it took. He would wait. But not everyone was willing to wait. A lie born of jealousy. Trang, the former secretary who had once worked silently behind the scenes for James, had a different plan. She was clever, she was broken, and she had always loved James in her own silent way. Seeing him now devoted, sleepless, hovering over a girl who no longer remembered him, Trang's heart twisted into something darker. "I'm pregnant," she whispered to James's mother one evening. The older woman, fragile and tired from the recent chaos, stared at her. "What did you say? It's James's child. He doesn't know yet." "But I thought you should." It was a lie. But it was laced with just enough tears, just enough vulnerability to seem real. James's mother had always been wary of to Diep, a village girl, a teacher with calloused hands. Not the match she had envisioned for her foreign-educated son. Now to Diep didn't even remember James, but Trang. Trang was poised, loyal, and now she was allegedly carrying the family's future. A fragile flame. Meanwhile, to Diep awoke slowly each day. Her voice was soft, her eyes blank, but when James spoke to her, something flickered. He brought her the conical hats she once weaved. She didn't recognize them, but she ran her fingers across the straw like it whispered to her skin. One night, during a thunderstorm, she cried without knowing why. "Are you my husband?" she asked James. He shook his head gently, pain in every breath. "No, but I'm someone who never stopped loving you." The breaking point. James's mother came to him soon after. "James," she said quietly, "you need to think of your future. Of responsibility. Trang is with child." James stared at her. A heartbeat passed, then another. "What child?" Trang's lie began to unravel. James confronted her. Her hands trembled. She stammered. The walls came down. The truth came out. "I just wanted to belong," she sobbed. The choice. James's mother sat alone that evening, watching to Diep in her wheelchair near the garden. A nurse pushed her gently along the stone path. To Diep reached out to touch a blooming red hibiscus. She smiled, not at anyone, not at James, but at something deep inside her, a flicker of peace. It was then James's mother saw it. This girl, even broken, still carried a light Trang never had. The next morning, she knelt beside to Diep, taking her weathered hand. "I judged you," she said softly, "but now I see. My son's heart was never wrong." Healing, together, to Diep's memory did not return all at once. It came in fragments, a laugh, a scent, the warmth of James's hand. But when he asked her, months later, beneath the star tree they once loved, "Would you stay by my side again, even if you don't remember the past?" She smiled, and this time, it reached her eyes. "I may not remember who I was," she whispered, "but I know how I feel now." The memory beneath the rain. The days passed like ripples on a still lake, quiet, slow, uncertain. James brought to Diep to a peaceful countryside retreat, far from the city and the chaos it once held. The birds sang in the early mornings, the wind danced through banana trees, and each sunrise offered a chance, however small, for to Diep to remember. Sometimes she would wake with tears in her eyes, hands trembling. "I dreamed of a market, of bananas. And someone was calling my name," she said, voice barely louder than a whisper. James smiled with tears hidden in his lashes. "That was you to Diep. That's your soul remembering." The secretary's desperation. Meanwhile, Trang's lie had cost her everything: her job, her reputation, her dignity. But she wasn't finished. Her obsession with James had grown into something uncontrollable. She began following him secretly, watching from a distance as Diep leaned her head gently on his shoulder by the riverbank, or laughed so faintly at a story she didn't remember but somehow felt. A glimmer of truth. One afternoon, while Diep sat in the garden, she saw a man playing guitar near the edge of the rice field. He was a stranger, or so she thought, but as the melody floated through the air, something inside her twisted sharply. A memory, a voice, a flash of fear. "John," she whispered. James, hearing the name, rushed to her. "What did you say?" She looked at him, frightened, shaking. There was a man, his eyes, I know them. He played music. Then darkness. James knew the memories were returning. He tightened security around the villa, hired guards, and refused to leave Diep's side. But the threat was closer than he realized. The mother's redemption. James's mother watched quietly as her son cared for Diep day and night. She saw the love in his every gesture, the way he brushed her hair back, the way he stayed awake through the night just to catch a glimpse of her smiling in her sleep. One evening, she approached Diep with a bowl of lotus soup. "You don't remember me, do you?" she asked. Diep shook her head politely. "I'm sorry." The older woman smiled gently. "That's all right. I judged you once, but now I see you love him the way no one else could." She touched Diep's hand softly. "Even if you never remember everything, I hope you'll stay. A storm is coming, but peace, like memory, is fragile." One night, while James was out meeting an investor to salvage what remained of his collapsing company, Trang and John struck. They broke into the villa, disabling security. Diep, left alone in the garden for only minutes, was gone when the nurse returned. The only clue, a single red scarf, the one James had once given her, lay torn on the bench. To be continued. James returned, breathless and pale, only to find her missing again. But this time, he wasn't the same man. This time, he had nothing left to lose except her. And he would burn the whole world to bring Diep back. The echo of her name. Rain fell like knives that night. James stood in the garden where Diep had vanished just hours ago. The torn red scarf was soaked, clinging to his hand like the last thread of her presence. His knuckles were white from holding it too tightly. She was right here. He whispered to himself, chest heaving with panic and fury. "You took her from me again." He knew it was John, and perhaps even worse, Trang. The betrayal pierced deeper than steel. But James wasn't the same man who once waited for luck. Now, he would act first and without mercy. The secret recording. Earlier that week, James had secretly installed a recorder in his office after suspecting someone from the company was leaking information. He never expected to hear Trang's voice. The recording played. "Help me destroy James," she said. "He'll never choose me over her. But if she disappears again, maybe he will." John laughed, and in return, I get my final revenge. I want him ruined. No money, no company, no woman. James clenched his jaw, his eyes burned. He forwarded the audio to his private investigator, Toon. "Find them, I don't care what it costs." In captivity, Diep opened her eyes in a dim, cold room. The smell of mildew and metal stung her nose. Her hands were tied, but the ropes were loose, almost like they wanted her to escape and run. She heard footsteps, the door creaked. Trang entered, her eyes red and hollow. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said, setting down a plate of rice. "But he left me no choice. You always come back. Even after losing your memory, he still only sees you." Diep struggled to sit up. "I don't remember everything, but I know he loves me. That's why you'll never win." Trang's hand trembled, hovering over her own heart. "You don't understand. I didn't mean to become this ... I just wanted to be seen." The mother's strength. Back at the villa, James's mother sat silently in her prayer room, listening to the rain. She had once doubted Diep, but now she saw clearly. Lighting an incense stick, she prayed not only for Diep's safety, but for her son's strength. And then, surprisingly, she picked up her phone and called someone from her past, a retired colonel who owed her family a favor. "Find her," she said. "As a mother, I beg you. She is my daughter now." A message in the wind. Diep stared at the raindrops streaking down the single-barred window. She hummed softly an old tune from the countryside, something about banana fields and hope. Somewhere in her mind, a door opened. She saw herself laughing with James beside a field, feeding ducks, making rice cakes, holding his hand. She gasped. The memories were coming back. She whispered to herself, "James, I remember." And just then, she noticed something strange. Under the rusty bedpost, scratched faintly into the floor, were the letters, "Jay will come, don't give up." To be continued. James now knows who betrayed him. Diep's memory is returning, and the final confrontation is coming where love, betrayal, and justice will collide. Will James find her in time? Will Trang break under the weight of her guilt? And will Diep finally escape the past haunting them all? The storm before the light. The wind howled through the cliffs outside the abandoned house where Diep was being held. Lightning flashed across the sky like a warning from fate itself. Inside, Diep sat upright now, her eyes clearer, stronger. She whispered James's name like a prayer. Her memory was still patchy, but she knew one thing with certainty. He would come for her, and she would survive. James's final plan. Back at the company headquarters, James walked through the empty hallway with Toon, his trusted investigator. "I've traced the signal from Trang's burner phone," Toon said. "She's staying in an old medical outpost near the cliffs. We can't involve the police yet, not until we get Diep out safely." James nodded, eyes burning with focus. "No more waiting. Tonight, we move." But before leaving, he stopped by his mother's room. She was waiting with a small black box in her hand. "You were going to give her this, weren't you?" she asked softly. She opened the box. Inside was a simple, elegant engagement ring. James nodded before she disappeared. His mother took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Bring her home, James, then give her the life she deserves." The escape attempt. That night, while Trang was asleep in the next room, Diep used the fork from her meal to pick at the rope binding her wrists. Her hands were shaking, but her determination didn't waver. Just as the knot loosened, she heard voices outside. "I don't trust Trang," John's voice said. "She's become unstable. If the girl remembers everything, we're both finished." Diep's heart pounded. So it was true, John had been behind all of it. The company collapse, the lies, her disappearance. And now he wanted her gone for good. She had to escape now. There was no time. Collision in the dark. James and Toon arrived near the location. The headlights were off, the night swallowing them in silence. Armed with flashlights and quiet steps, they approached the abandoned house. Suddenly, a shadow appeared at the door. Diep. She had escaped on her own. Her face was bruised, clothes torn, but her spirit burned like fire. "James," she whispered, her knees giving out. He caught her just in time, pulled her close. Felt the shiver of her breath against his neck. "I remember everything," she said. "Everything, James." But the reunion was cut short. John stepped out from the shadows with a gun in hand. "You ruined everything, James," he hissed. "Now you'll lose everything again." Before he could fire, Trang appeared behind him shaking, eyes filled with guilt. "Stop," she screamed. "This is over, John. I won't let you hurt her." A single shot rang out, then silence. Trang had shot John in the leg, shaking uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to be loved," she whispered, collapsing to her knees. After the rain, weeks later, the sky over the rice fields was blue again. Diep stood on the porch of her small countryside home, holding James's hand. He slid the ring onto her finger. "No more running," he said. "No more fear, just us." Tears sparkled in her eyes, but they weren't from sadness. They were from peace, Trang turned herself in and gave a full confession. John was arrested for everything: embezzlement, kidnapping, and conspiracy. The company slowly began to heal. And James, he left the city behind for now, to grow vegetables, to raise ducks, and to build a quiet life with the woman he almost lost twice.